Hello, everyone. Stacy Casson here. For those of you who can't see me, I'm a very tan woman with short, wavy salt and pepper hair. I think I forgot. I do have a flower. I have a blue flower in my hair today. I'm wearing clear glasses and a blue. You who can't see me, and I'm live on the other place. Okay, I wasn't sure because LinkedIn, StreamYard said LinkedIn. Oh no, I don't know how to make up. StreamYard said LinkedIn was having some issues. In my hair today. Hang on. I'm wearing. There we go. Sorry about that. Yes, so I'm wearing a blue, like looks like a peacock's feather kind of scarf with a black dress, and there is a red background behind me, and my little logo up in the corner, and that's everything. So thank you so much for joining. Today is day 28. We did have some technical difficulties with the internet yesterday, but I'm back. So if you had questions you missed yesterday, please go ahead and put them in the comments. While I wait for your questions, we'll go ahead and take a deep breath in. And exhale. Deep breath in. And exhale. Deep breath in. And exhale. And just take a moment to be present. Any feelings or sensations in your body. Maybe you have some tension. Maybe you feel more relaxed after breathing. Just take a moment. We'll go ahead and begin with our Pokemon card of the day. And today we have the Fairy Energy Pokemon card. This is a pink card. It has a glowing pink sphere, and in the middle of the sphere is a black kind of stylized tulip. The outer petals look like hands cradling a flower bud or diamond or synapse or sparkle. I don't know, but it's cradling something. And for me, this card is associated with healing. So if there are any questions around healing that we would like to explore, that's fine. I think I'll put in a question of my own in the chat. How can I strategically manage up? Let's see what advice we can get from our friends, the Pokemon. And if anybody asks your own questions, I do have the Black Tarot card deck, which is really a cool deck. And maybe I'll ask the same questions from both decks and see if we get different vantage points. So what's happening? We have the Fire Energy Pokemon card. This is an orange card with a glowing sphere and a black flame. When I'm thinking about Fire Energy Pokemon cards, I think about energy in general, and creativity, passion, being in touch with my sense on these things. And so also wanting to light a fire, to set a fire under maybe your leaders' butts, your collective leaders' butts. So that I think kind of ties in with figuring out how to creatively and strategically manage up. Comes to mind for me, maybe something else comes to mind for you when you're reflecting on fire energy. So then what is the challenge in this situation? And we get the Steel Energy Pokemon card. It's a great card with a glowing gray steel ball with a black inverted triangle and brackets. And I just get the sense of boundaries, things being shut down, potentially limiting beliefs about a situation, being afraid to step outside of my comfort zone. That's definitely what comes to mind for me. So I kind of feel very contained in this particular situation, and even looking at the brackets, it's thinking small, whereas I have to break out of this. Now, steel is a conductor, fire is hot. So when I think of, if you've ever had like a mug like this and it's not properly insulated, it gets hot pretty quickly. This one's insulated, so I can drink from it. And the liquid's hot, but I'm not going to get burned by the mug. So I'm also getting a sense of how to insulate myself from the fire. So, what could help in this situation? Ooh, we get the Dark Energy Pokemon card. This is a navy blue card with a new sphere that looks like a comet and a black crescent moon on its side. And so when I think about this, it is thinking about the underlying systems and structures, the motivation. This is stakeholder management. What are my stakeholders trying to achieve? What am I trying to achieve? And how do I marry the two together? So this might be, for those of you that are familiar with change management, a time to dust off those stakeholder management skills and understand the audience that you're speaking to. What are their motivations? Are they on the change curve? And sorry, I'm choking. Where are they on the change curve? And what can you do to help them along? So those are some of the things that I'm thinking about when I'm thinking how to strategically manage up. And systems, the undertow of the systems is also thinking more big picture instead of getting into the weeds. I tend to get into the weeds. I don't know what your particular challenges are, but maybe you relate to that. So helping them to see the big picture. So what can help us move forward? Execute. This is a grass energy Pokemon. And these are some diabolical cracked eggs. One has its yolk shown. They're on a beach, and they look pretty angry and demented. And they work collectively, and they kind of have hypnosis. So I'm kind of looking at them more as as my leadership team. No, I'm kidding. They're very nice leaders, but like this may be your leadership team, and people sometimes have a demented view of what the change you're accomplishing or you're trying to accomplish. So these eggs use telepathy to communicate among themselves. So it's kind of like I'm getting the feel of a jet trick with this thing, and being able to effectively communicate with them. So tapping into their wavelength and helping to change the collective. It's a grass energy Pokemon, and that is, for me, it's green. It's about heart and compassion, but also one of the features of this card is ram. So being assertive and direct in my communication would probably help me. And these are just so much fun, these little cranky eggs. So that I think is helpful. Who are the personalities, and how can I make them think this is their idea, right? So those are some of the things that come to mind around this question. I hope, well, if you are in a similar situation, your thoughts on that. All right, so that was what our buddies, the Pokemon, had to say. Let's try this again to get a different perspective. Same questions using the Black Tarot deck. And I'm gonna shuffle these. This is a new still for me, so they're not that agile yet. And we'll just shuffle the cards, and I'll just pull some random cards. So I'm gonna spread these out next to me. And our first card again, and how can I strategically manage up, is stuck. Hang on. Okay. This is the 8 of coins. So there is, how I see this card is a person trying to make something, and it's a black woman with braids sitting on a bench, and she's working by firelight, and there's a little mirror on the table. So the 8 of coins is similar to the 8 of pentacles, which in traditional tarot shows someone on a bench trying to hone their craft. So I think this is pretty accurate in that if you're trying to manage up, you're trying to hone your craft. And there's a mirror there to kind of, what are you reflecting to the outside world when you are discussing the things that you're trying to change. So this is one I'd probably reflect on a little bit more if this was a full session about honing my craft, and coins is definitely place. And it also seems to me maybe it's repetitive, and these things are all identical. So perhaps a challenge might be to do something different, right? The same thing has been done, which is great to hone your craft, but perhaps you might need to, or somebody else might concede to consider different ways of producing whatever it is that we're trying to do. So what's the challenge in this situation? And this time we get the Mother of Wands. So this is a woman, a black woman with 2 kind of Sailor Moon meatball buns on her head, and her hair is down her spine. And she's holding a sunflower in a field of ghost sunflowers. And wands are energy. And I personally love sunflowers because they always try and follow the sun, and they absorb toxicity. So, and she looks confident. She's wearing a red dress. And so maybe the challenge for me is feeling this level of power and confidence, being able to kind of be the sun, be a light that would illuminate the change that is trying to happen. And she's kind of surrounded by ghosts. That might be the ghosts of things past that I've tried in the past that wasn't successful. It could also just be a lot of things clamoring for one's attention, because she's kind of being surrounded by all these ghostly sunflowers. And maybe just what I want to focus on, because she's only holding one sunflower. So that could be a challenge for me on how I'm communicating, and maybe that's a challenge for you as well. So that's a potential challenge in this situation, in doing something different. So then what could help me? And also I noticed that there's a purple sky above her in this flower card, and purple for me is thinking higher than just myself and my goals. So perhaps the challenge is also thinking beyond my realm of responsibility, and how this could impact our company, or what is it big picture that I'm asking a leader to do. So that's a different way to look. Sometimes we know how our world works. And when you're trying to communicate with leaders, they have a different worldview and perspective. So it's understanding what communication style they like. They have very limited time. So, kind of like the sunflower, how do I focus their attention? How do I stand out from all these ghostly things around, right? She's really standing out in this card, and maybe my current messaging gets lost with all those other things there. So, what could help in that situation? And again, having the same issues, would love to hear from you. And here we have the Four of Wands. There is a black couple. The male in the couple is standing on some bars and holding up the woman who's sitting there cross-legged. So, Wands again is energy. So we're talking about energy, doing some heavy lifting, stretching outside of my comfort zone, maybe asking for help, like maybe asking my own manager or other colleagues for feedback on how to strategize on these situations. The person that's being lifted is pretty nimble, their foot in this kind of yoga pose, and is coming up out from between two barriers. So personally, it's doing some heavy lifting. Four for me is about stability and maybe asking for help to push outside of that zone, but it's not something to do by myself. Maybe it is also positioning things in a way that I want the leaders to pick it up, right? So that's another that I can look at it. There's many different ways to interpret this if I just sit with it for a while. Like I might notice that this one, the Eight of Coins and the Four of Wands, the background colors are similar. I mean, that's an association. I mean, you might have a different association when you reflect on things as you undergo your own thoughts, journaling, strategy building on this situation. So then, what could help us go forward in this situation? And let's see. Okay, a second to sit with this card a little bit. All right. So this is the Seven of Coins. This shows a beautiful black woman with braids, wearing a kind of salmon pink bikini, sitting on the beach, and the tide is rolling in. And this is about reflection and definitely reflecting on the beach. And this is coins again. So a way forward for me might be to reflect on what is it that I'm trying to accomplish? What are the seeds that I have planted so far? What communication is working well for me? What hasn't worked well? And the things that work well, how can I be more consistent with that? Maybe develop a strategy so I don't have to do such heavy lifting. My strategy and systems heavy lifting for me. If we tie that back in with our earlier Pokemon reading on the same thing, is understanding my own systems, and I'm showing the dark energy Pokemon card, understanding my own systems and beliefs, the situation, to lift myself out of maybe fatalistic thinking or frustrated thinking. And that might be a way to move forward in managing up. Okay, I don't see any questions yet. You all, I'm going to definitely save these cards to journal a little bit later about this and think some more about it. Okay, so when I don't have questions, I generally do a Tigro session. And let's see what we have with Tigro, which is a way if you don't know what to ask, but you want to have a goal, you can use this one to come up with a topic and maybe get inspired. So our topic is Magikarp. This is a water energy Pokemon, and it looks like it is gasping its last breath. I don't really love Magikarp. It says its thing is Phil. So maybe that's how you're feeling right now, like you're gasping for your last breath. It is virtually worthless in terms of power and speed. It is the most weak and pathetic Pokemon in the world. So that's a water energy and gasping for air. So how can we maybe develop some strength or put ourselves in a different environment where we don't look like we're not going to make it? I just think that's really funny. All right, so that's T for the topic. So we're flailing around. What's a goal for that? And here we have Bunnelby. Bunnelby is a bunny rabbit, and it's hopping around in the moonlight. There's flowers. It's a really pretty environment. Bunnelby's goal is to find a friend. It's very sensitive to danger. It's running away from its own predator. So we have the Magikarp that is falling apart and gasping for air. And Bunnelby's super happy, but very sensitive to danger. And one of its things is to find a friend. So that might be, if we're gasping for air, to seek a support system. That's one way of interpreting this. And let's find a friend. Let's get some advice from another Pokemon before we go to the R. Let's find a friend. And we get a fairy energy Pokemon card. Okay, so maybe a friend help us heal. What else? Okay, we have Makuhita. Makuhita is a big yellow sumo robot-looking Pokemon. It's got boxing gloves. It's walking through the forest, very confident with the way to go. It reminds me of the robot in Big Hero 6. It's also a fighting type Pokemon. So if we're running away from danger and we need a friend, like that's a great friend to have, a big, massive, strong friend to help us heal, right? So that's maybe a topic and goal to kind of see about that. So then where are we realistically in this situation when we're gasping for air? And we get a fire energy Pokemon card. So this is a orange card with a orange sphere and a black flame. And so we're thinking about, if this is a fire, like maybe somebody's rip-roaring and ready to go. I mean, this one has a comet. So I'm also getting a sense of this kind of to crash down on us for some reason. So I think in this situation, maybe we're sick and tired of being sick and tired and gasping for air. So we're pretty ready. I don't think it's difficult to make new connections, or perhaps we have existing connections that would be able to help us in that situation. So what are some of the opportunities that we have? And yep, there's a fighting Pokemon, which is what Makuhita is like. So I'm going to another one. That's, I think we're on the right track with this energy. And we have Charjabug. And it is a lightning type Pokemon. It looks like a caterpillar subway train, and it stores energy throughout the day, and from the food it digests, it generates energy and stores it. So if we're thinking about our opportunities to stop flailing about, perhaps it might be embracing things that you joy, to recharge yourself. It could literally be what is your diet? What are the things that you are filling yourself up with? And is this helping you to is this helping you to recharge? And if you did, perhaps you wouldn't be flailing around so much. So, what are some opportunities for regeneration to ensure your fire can be steady and has a constant fuel source so you can keep fighting and run away to face another day? And so, what's one small thing that we can do as a way forward? And we have our buddy Greninja. Greninja is a water Pokemon type. It's a frog, I learned yesterday because Greninja showed up again. It's a bipedal frog with a very, very long tail. So it is going for it, right? Because its tail is, I don't think we want to hunt flies, but definitely hunt sustenance. It appears and vanishes with ninjas. It toys with its enemies using swift movements while slicing them with throwing spheres of sharpest water. So, this is a far cry from Magikarp, which is gasping for air, and Greninja is pretty like a badass, honestly. Greninja is pretty active, knows what it wants. It has a tongue to strike pretty quickly. It has defenses. So, when we're thinking about a way forward, what's a way that we can embrace our inner Greninja, who's very focused, who's in the environment, is using the environment around it? Like, it's a water Pokemon type and it's throwing water shooting stars, whereas Magikarp is literally gasping underwater. So, when we're thinking about that, what could that potentially look like? What does it mean to use our skills to come together and recharge ourselves? Like, okay, be confident, but what does that mean? What does that look like? And so we get Torracat, which is a fire energy Pokemon. It is a strutting. It has a bell around its neck. I think it's another one that it stores fire in its fur. Yeah. At its throat, it bears a ball of fire. The bell rings brightly whenever this Pokemon spits fire. So it is literally get your swagger on. What are ways that you can be more bold and confident? What are maybe taking tiny risks to begin? Again, looking at your environment, I'm going to go back to Greninja because Greninja is throwing stars from water and Magikarp is gasping for air underwater somehow. So it's taking advantage of your environment or shifting to a different environment. So if we're trying to recharge, stay away from danger, get a friend to help you, perhaps to shift your environment, shift the things that you're taking in order to build on that swagger. So that's what I come up with. Maybe you had a different opinion about that situation. Okay. still don't see any questions in the comments. So let's repeat that again using the Black Tarot. I'm going to leave out the cards I already, because I still want to journal on those. So again, let's look at the topic. And we have another lady in a black bikini in the water. This is the Ace of Coins, and she is holding a cow and holding it up. So coins are usually jobs. Aces are new beginnings. Being in the water, I kind of get a sense of rebirth and listening to the roar of the ocean. So what secrets are out there to share with us? What are new endeavors to start? If we're looking back earlier about strategically managing up, what's a new beginning of communication, right? Because we have this conch shell, and the time people put a conch shell to their ears. So that could be a potential topic. And with the goal, we have the Wheel of Fortune. There is a giant wheel, and it's surrounded by clouds and of the moon. And I think those are some gems and fire in the bottom. And that to me ties into change cycle, maybe making your own luck. Where are you as far as change goes? Where are you when you're starting a new endeavor? How can you keep that wheel moving? Like Proud Mary, big wheels keep on turning. How do we, and there's a fire underneath. So how do we keep that fire going? We're starting this new project. So you're trying to do something new and you want to change your fortune. So realistically, what could that look like? And in real life, you'd want to make a SMART goal. Like when you're finding your goal, I mean, change is nice, but is it that you want X percent of people to be engaged? Is it you want to bring on 10 or 20 new sales? You know, what is that specific goal that you want to do? Start a new project. Do you want to have maybe your invites up by the end of the month? You know, it should be smart, measurable. I think A's actually I always get smart mixed up. Smart, actionable, relevant, and time bound, or achievable, relevant, and time bound. You can Google it. And so what are some opportunities? Oh, hey, Emily. Right now, we're just discussing random things. Earlier, we were discussing how to strategically up. And right now, I'm doing a tea grow. So the tea topic was Ace of Coins. So for me, this is starting a new endeavor. With the conch shell, I kind of got in on communication, which is something that you all have been working on, I know, in Flow Labs with the amazing Cara Smith. And the goal was the Wheel of Fortune. So kind of making a change, moving things along and progressing. And now we are on the R for realistically, how ready are we to do this? And we get the Fool card. And this is a black man bun and angel wings. He kind of looks like he's walking on water. And for me, this is about being willing to take risks. And that's especially you as a solopreneur does. And also earlier when we were discussing the things like gasping for air, we had a magic carp gasping for air. And that was also Phone a Friend with Bunnelby, striding strong and tall. So it's also that we don't have to do this alone. I'm just going to harken back to those other things. So when we take a risk, we don't have to do it alone. And the Fool also has these cycles. and, tied in with the Ace of Coins, which is a beginning. The Fool in regular tarot is the beginning of a journey. It's also playing the Fool, but I've been looking into like the archetype of jester, and while they're joking, they're truth tellers, and they can usually get away with it. Like the jester can tell the emperor he has no new clothes, or is not wearing clothes, and can usually like tell them without pain of death. So it's whatever kind of like a fool can come up with for you. But I think tied with things, change, whatever, I think that's a good indication that this person is ready to make a change, to try something new, to jump off the cliff. If we're talking about managing up, it's again being willing to communicate differently, take a risk on direct perhaps with the people that you're dealing with. And so then with Tigro, the next one is the O. So what are some ways forward with whatever this new thing that you're trying to do is? And this one we have the Father of Wands, and this is a bearded black man in a suit. Looks like he's in front of a whiteboard giving a presentation. And this is about energy, and and there's some mountains in the background, but this gentleman looks very confident, upward. He's explaining things, he's showing the connections, making the dots. There's the shadow of people kind of in front of him paying attention. So if we're starting this new thing, it's also having a mature vision and being able to tie people into that vision, connect the dots. I still have this conch shell, so we're still seeing things around communication and having a mature way of mastering your energy. For some reason, this reminds me of a YouTube video that I was watching this morning, Struthless, and he was talking about, I think it was mistakes every artist makes. I think it was that one. But he's like, one day you wake up and you write a poem. The next day you draw a picture. The next day you write a story. So what he likened it to was putting in one brick for different buildings, versus if you focused on one thing, you're doing that one thing to the 10th degree. So perhaps when we're trying to do a new thing, is staying focused on that one thing, the Wheel of Fortune guiding that one thing through its changes, taking a risk with the Fool. And I think hearkening back to that one thing when you have the Father of Wands, which is about energy, is really being focused on your energy. And we're just seeing these representatives of cycles. So even depiction on the whiteboard is about putting and connecting the dots together. So that's what comes to mind for me on this new endeavor. So then what's a way forward in birthing this new endeavor? What could help us on that? I technically pull two and see how these connect. Okay. Interesting. So we have the World, another cycle, an end of completion. This is a woman, and she's in this beautiful green robe, and she is watering her flowers. And again, there's a cycle. We had the Fool, which is the beginning of the cycle, and the World, which is you achieve this and you're at the end of the cycle. And I haven't really said, well, what's in between? And so we have the Father of Baskets, and baskets are like your feelings. So, and figure is usually a mature energy. So here is a man in a garden outside his home, and he is plucking ripened fruits. So a way forward to me is like having a strong vision with the end in mind, because I mean, this is the end of the cycle, even though this is our way forward. So when I look at these things together, I'm just getting a sense of really taking the time to formulate and articulate this vision. So if we go back to earlier question, and I'm loving these cards. So I'm going to go back and journal about it. If we look back at the earlier cards about how to manage up strategically, that Father of Wands card with the gentleman in front of the whiteboard connecting the dots together really makes sense to me. So to think strategically is think of the end in mind, and then you can backtrack what that looks like. If you're going to plant a successful garden, you can't just throw a bunch of seeds in there. You really have to think about what is the purpose of it, what do we want to harvest, and what plays nicely together. Certain plants need sunshine, some need some shade. Uh, there's plants that you grow in your garden. Maybe it's not what you want, but they can help with pest control, like marigold. And so, the resources that you're going to need for this final vision, some plants need support, like this person picking the fruit. The fruit is in an arch, and again, there's some flowers and there's some other things that are in a neat row. Planning for the things that you want to harvest. So before you even get started, it might be, okay, you're at the beginning. What does the end look like? What does success look like? And just sitting down and visualizing that, but writing it down and then writing a plan so that you're keeping yourself on track. You can engage through all the cycles so you can reach the end. And then after the end, what's next? So that's what comes to mind when I just decided to look at a tea grow. And if you have any thoughts, Em, would love to hear it. That's what we're discussing. So if anything came to mind for you in your own journey as a entrepreneur, I would love to hear your thoughts, or maybe something different came up for you, something wild came up for you. That's totally fine as well. So that's what we have so far. I don't have any questions in the chat yet. So I'll throw in another thing if we're talking about managing up. Okay, you're taking it in. That's fine. That's fine. I appreciate. I love your feedback. One of my favorite tools wow. Okay. Sorry, I had a weird thing in my eye. One of my favorite tools when we are trying to hit a target or do something different, stop, start, continue. So I think I'm just like steaming up my glasses. I'm just thinking so hard. Wow. All right. We're going to think about stop, start, continue. So starting a new thing, having a grand vision, what can we do differently to achieve a goal? So I'm going to pull a card for stop. I'm going to pull a card for start. And I'm going to pull a card for continue. That is not a card. That is a Pokemon holder. Okay, and hopefully not passing out. It's so weird. Drink some water. Okay. I mean, I feel good, but everything is kind of blurry. All right, continue. We have the Psychic Energy Pokemon card. This is a purple card with a purple glowing sphere and an eye. And tapping into your intuition, trusting yourself, those are things to continue doing. And sometimes that's hard to do. So I'm still a fan of journaling and writing down or quantifying the times that your intuition has served you well. I learned a couple new journaling prompts, and one of them is I am statements, but like with proof. So if you are working on your intuition or being successful. It's I have good instincts because, and you write down examples of when you trusted your instincts and that worked out well for you. Because we have a tendency to gaslight ourselves, especially when you look at the messaging that's out there that we're not good enough, that we need to buy this thing to be worthy or to be enough. And we outsource our inner wisdom to other people, and then things that other people tell us to do. And you might have had a gut feeling that I don't know if that's the way I want to go, but you do it anyway because you're not trusting yourself. So if we want to do something new and enjoy the fruits of our labor in this garden, then I think we need to continue trusting our instincts. So then we have for stop, this is the dark energy Pokemon card. It is a dark blue card with a blue glowing sphere that looks like a comet and a crescent moon. And I don't like to think of energy in a negative way. I like to use a more scientific meaning of dark energy in that it's a force that is in play, but people can't see it. So it's an invisible force and it impacts your world. I would say stop ignoring the things that you don't know, because that's impacting whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. Stop being obtuse about situations. And what else comes to mind for me? Also, stop some of the programming that's in your head. I also liken this to some subconscious programming that's in our head that we're not aware of. So if you're trying to do something new, if you're trying to manage up, then you can't keep thinking of yourself as the person you want to be or that you believe yourself to be, but you need to become the person that you need to be. And who is that person? And what new subroutines do you need to run to become that person? And then finally, you're trusting your intuition and you kind of have stopped some of these other programmings and stop ignoring the things you don't know. What are things you should start doing? And we have Toxicroak. This is an evolution of Krogunk, and it is a kind of salamander blue. I don't know what to call it, like a salamander shark with pointy talons, and it's a fighting energy Pokemon card. But I like Krogunk because even though it's a poisonous creature, the poisons serve two different purposes. One of the poisons, will neutralize their prey, but the other one, like, cures headaches. So it has knuckle claws and it secretes, I can't even read this. So a scratch could become fatal, right? So Toxicroak, I'm not saying to start poisoning people, but I like more the confidence and power that this person has. And when we tie this back to the psychic Pokemon card, it's thinking of ways to use weaknesses and turn them into strengths. Because what I liked about its predecessor, Krogunk, is even though it has poison, it has the cure in the same place. So, how can you leverage both your strengths and your weaknesses in a situation to, to step into your power? I mean, this is a powerful dude. So, how can you leverage your strengths and weaknesses to get to where you want to go? Because I think everything is neutral. Like, my strength is being passionate. I'm very passionate about things. I can motivate, well, people can motivate themselves, but I can talk in an inspiring and charismatic way and people think differently about situations. But that's also a weakness for me, because I have to remember that even though I'm feeling this way and fire passionate about it, that's not how other people think. And if I keep expecting other people to be me, I'm just going to end up frustrated and withdraw and back away. And then I'm not exacting the change that I want to see. So it's a delicate balance. And I think our poisons can contain the antidote, and so on and so forth. Even vitamins, if you take vitamins in excess, they can actually poison you. So things just are. But if you're paying attention to those underlying systems and programs, you would probably get a different outcome and solution. So that's what comes to mind for me when we're talking about all of these different situations and issues. All right, so I'm just checking in a moment if there's any questions or comments or feedback from the chat. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to take a moment to let all that sink in and take some deep breaths. So if you haven't breathed today, here's your opportunity, even if you're team replay, to take a deep breath in and exhale. Deep breath in and exhale. Deep breath in and exhale. So some of the themes tonight have been healing. Our Pokemon card was the Fairy Energy card, which to me signifies healing. You can think of it as something else. We talked about convincing the demented people to come around to your point of view, but also with execute is thinking sometimes people have a demented viewpoint about what you're trying to communicate. So it's, you know, the wisdom of your support group or support system to help poke apart your situations or your assumptions about something. Because when you're designing a way forward and thinking about objections, or thinking about objections, like a way to do it is to pick apart your own argument. Like, if you didn't want to listen, how can you twist your own words, and how can you overcome that perception about your communication? I had a really good conversation with a colleague today, and one of their points was sometimes we're so focused in on what's going wrong, we don't look at the complete and holistic picture, right? So it's kind of like, we'll look at your kids' grades, because I don't know, I'm a mom and that works for me. So your kid got one F on one assignment, and all you hone in on is that one assignment. Meanwhile, they're straight A student. Their overall GPA is A. But because of this one F, you decide that you're now going to curtail all their privileges, and they have to go to, I don't know, Saturday school. And because you only honed in on this one thing versus the big picture, now your kid's demotivated maybe. And now they're going to start failing other things because you focused so much on this one thing and you didn't look at the system holistically. So that's one example, because in the weeks prior, we've kind of been talking about our decisions and our actions. not just as individual things, but as part of a bigger ecosystem. So, what do our choices result in upstream and downstream? And something as simple as food choices can be tied in and have ripple effects. We've seen Coffrey Dre in his newspaper, the Unapologetically Black newsletter. He's talking about our food supply and how they use prison labor for a lot of that, which is tied into white supremacy. Another friend of mine, Sarah June Sibo on LinkedIn, she's been reading a book about basically the food industrial complex and how our systems fail things over and over again. So you have people being poisoned by applesauce. Something as simple as a date. Ramadan is coming up. One simple food is now a microcosm of liberation and oppression, because where are these grapes coming from? Who's producing them? What does the profits from these dates, not grapes? What's, for example, who are we supporting with our choices? So we don't live in a vacuum. We don't exist in a vacuum. And even if you decide, I'm going to take a vow of silence, okay, that's cool. But I live with 5 kids. And guess what? Every time I take a vow of silence, it drives them nuts because we can't communicate. And it's great for me. I like the quiet and the headspace, but I'm now creating this other situation for people. So it's still communication, maybe explaining your why if you're going to do something, and get that buy-in and support so you can create win-win situations. So that is all I have for everyone today. Tomorrow is the last day of this series of lives. After that, if you'd like to talk about Pokemon or any other thing, um, as a Clarity Concierge, you'll have to book an appointment and do it like everybody else. So take advantage of tomorrow, the last day for this. Tomorrow's live will be 6:30. I think the internet gods have been good to me, so I should have connection. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you, Emily, for joining in and for just being a part and holding space with me. Thank you all and have a great evening. Take care.